That's all I ever wanted to do with my life, is to be able to be the mom that I always wanted to be. Deciding to bring about a lawsuit was a huge decision for me. My 2 boys deserve to be able to experience the world, just like every other person. We had done every single thing you could possibly imagine in order to prevent this from happening again.
If the doctors had properly given the information to Amy, she could have made an informed choice on whether or not she should have more children after having a first child with this disability.
There was obviously an overwhelming burden with how are we going to be able to take care of both of them? How are we going to be able to buy wheelchairs, to buy special beds, to buy all those things that you never, ever, ever want to see your children end up in?
Amy Clark is a special individual. I mean, the level of care she gives to those boys is like nothing I've ever seen. She's like no one I've ever met. Anyone that has raised a handicapped child understands how hard it is to raise one. But raising 2 isn't twice as hard as raising 1. It's exponentially more difficult.
As a mom, I needed every ounce of energy that I had just to survive on my end and just to take care of my kids.
You know what? Your face has chocolate on it still.
There were so many questions whirling around in my head, and I didn't know where to start.
When Amy Clark came to us, she was in a devastating situation with no explanation for why her doctors, who she had trusted, had dropped the ball.
The nature of the injustice that had been done to her was, very obvious. And on a deep level, I wanted to try and help Amy Clark.
Say cheese! You're such a ham, aren't you?
The best thing about Mark and Chris has been that they absolutely really have understood my case straight from the start and have seen the struggles that we've been through and have had that compassion. They were always very good about explaining what the process was, and every step of the way it was, how are you doing and how have you been impacted? That's what really impressed me.
We told her from the very beginning, we will fight to the end to make sure that we get you the help that you need.
Can you point and show me what you want?
Our case dragged out for 10 years, and I never felt that overwhelming burden of stress that people often talk about with a court case, because I knew that Chris and Mark were willing to sacrifice their time and their efforts to fight for my family because they cared, and they cared on a personal level.
So how's the new bed gonna work?
It was a deeper relationship than what I would have anticipated.
I think a lot of the bond came from the fact that finally she had somebody that understood what she was going through.
When we got Amy's case to the Supreme Court, and we got the Supreme Court to change the law for everybody in the state, that's, I would say, one of the most satisfying experiences of my professional career.
It really is a delicate process. And what I was most concerned with was preserving my children's honor and respecting who they were as people. My boys are still my boys, and they still have a purpose to their life and a plan to their life, and they deserve that honor and respect as human beings. Chris and Mark always had respect